Today we are going to talk about the Pionex BTC Growth Bot, a special kind of moongrid bot, but what this means I will talk about later. First and foremost, this is no financial advice, it's for educational purposes only, and do your own research about the potential risk if you want to invest. Before we get started with the bot, you need to understand a specific trading pair, because this is basically what the bot is trading. It's the Ethereum Bitcoin pair. What does it mean? Well, it's basically, currently it's sitting around 0.0222 and a bit more. It's basically the ratio between how much Bitcoin do you get for one Ethereum. So if you currently have one Ethereum, you could get 0.00226645 Bitcoin. So why does it matter? Because this is the pair that is traded, and you need to understand how this pair works to be able to determine the risk of trading the spot or enabling the spot. So in general, you can see, if I go to the daily chart here on Pionex itself, it's going down. It's going down way low, because this is if you're looking for Ethereum has dropped a lot more than Bitcoin. So when is this price rising? This price is rising when the relative rise of Ethereum is higher than the relative rise of Bitcoin, or even when Bitcoin is dropping more than Ethereum. So you see, it is kind of correlated, which I think makes this a bit more safer, because in general, when Bitcoin is dropping, Ethereum is dropping as well. When Bitcoin is rising, Ethereum is rising as well. The problem here is, potentially, that when Bitcoin is dropping, Ethereum is dropping a lot harder, and the other way around, when Bitcoin is rising, Ethereum is rising less. So, but they are moving in general in the same direction. So you can see, even in April 2025, when Ethereum was trading, I think around 1.4, something like that. Remember that number? We made the low of let's say 0.0175. Let's keep that as a number. We need that later on. What actually is a grid bot? A grid bot is, I'm just creating one here. So when I would be starting to create one, we will get into the details how to create this specific one later. The grid bot basically divides the price range, as the naming suggests, into different grids, and depending on your direction you take, so for our specific bot we can only take long or short. Here you can also neutral, but this is a different bot. It's just for example. It starts in long. We take the long position as an example. It initially converts some of your investment directly into the other pair. So in this case, you will directly you invest with some Bitcoin, and you already get some Ethereum in the beginning. Then what happens is, when the price rises to the next grid level, it sells a portion, and when it drops, it buys a portion. These grid levels are adjusted dynamically within a certain range. And so you're basically interested in volatility. It's arbitrage trading, to be exact. So you wanted to rise 1%, drop 1%, rise 1%, drop 1%, so that you can buy and sell all the time. I have mine open, for example, and you can see here all the trades it did. And you can also see under the details the next level. So you can see here, if we drop further 0.04%, it will buy another part, and if we rise 0.21%, it would sell again. So if we would be dropping below the next buying point, also the next selling point would change. These are always dynamically changing, adjusting, so that you have in a tight range, at least in this example, buying and selling, and it's not static. It's always adjusting itself. So you can see, if it's dropping 1%, the next sell order will be 1% above, for example, definitely not 1%. What's interesting about this specific bot? The futures moon bots are very interesting from Pionex, because you don't pay any transaction fees. So if we, for example, go to my other grid bot, just as an example, doesn't matter what it is, what it does. You can see I pay a fee each time, each trade. So this is basically, you have to take a trade-off between how tight the grids you make, because the tighter they are, the more often they trigger, but the more often they trigger, the more often you pay fees, because it's normal trading fees, right? And so they eat into your profits for each round, and this can take almost everything. So this is a trade-off. And for the moon bots, they disabled it. Instead, you need to pay 20% of your profits when you close the bot or when you withdraw profits from the bot. So, but this increases in the long run your overall income, as you can make the grids very tight, or you don't even have a choice with the moon bots. They define the grid tightness themselves, and you just basically start them. But you don't have to worry about the actual trading fees. The second thing I really like about this pair is you have no funding rate. So funding rate is something specific to futures trading. The idea is basically there is a difference between the spot market and the futures market, and this difference they want to close for some reason. I can't tell you exactly why, but the idea behind is if the funding rate is positive and you are long, you pay something to the short holder of the position. If you are long and the funding rate is negative, you receive something from the short position holder. So for example, you can see here, again in this bot, I have a funding rate history and I pay every 8 hours 0.0065%. Funding rate changes over time, so this is definitely changing in the next couple of hours a bit, either down or up. And this is based on my value position I hold. In this case, this bot currently holds 0.212 Ethereum, and you don't pay anything here. Why is this great? Because depending on how volatile it is, for example, currently it's the weekend, this bot has not done so much rounds during the weekend, and if you do not have many arbitrage trades, your funding rate can eat up, in combination to the fees, completely the gains from the arbitrage alone. And you don't have fees, you don't have arbitrage with this specific trading pair. And the third thing which I really like about this pair and this bot is your profit is in Bitcoin. Meaning, if your goal is to increase your Bitcoin holding, for me that's the perfect bot to go. Alright, how to create that one? In the futures bot, and then you can see here on the right side, this is currently the web application. You can see Bitcoin growth. You can create that. You either take the direction long or short. For me, it's currently always long. And the coin you want to invest, you can either invest USDT or you can invest Bitcoin. If you invest USDT, your position is converted beforehand to Bitcoin. So if you have Bitcoin, just go for Bitcoin. And then you can say, okay, how much I want to invest and the leverage. Now, one important thing, do not over leverage. Where is the risk in this bot coming from? Well, you have a liquidation risk. So what does liquidation mean? Liquidation means that when you reach a certain price, your position is forced closed and you lose everything. So for example, if I would go for at 1 Bitcoin, if I had that many, you can see that with a leverage of 5, my estimated liquidation price would be 0.017. Remember the price we talked in the beginning, the current all-time low was around 0.0175. So I personally would not use a 5 leverage, and definitely not something like a 50. If you go, for example, for a 50 leverage, you would already be at 0.022. This is not far away from the current price. So, I mean, we reached it in May. You would be forced liquidated, or you're actually already in the 22nd of June. So, definitely something, if you're very sure that it's going long and up, go for it. But apart from that, something is more safe, like a 4 or 3 leverage. I mean, you have time, right? So I go for one more. My more risky position is 5, but I wouldn't touch anything above 5. But this is up to you. This is one of the risks. The other risk, of course, as always, is coin asset devaluation. So when Bitcoin is crashing for some reason, you still have Bitcoin, but this is the same risk when you would be holding it. And the third risk is that the Ethereum and Bitcoin are not moving in the same direction. So if you do not believe at all, absolutely not, in Ethereum, you probably should not trade this, because yes, you are interested in ups and downs, but it should still be in some kind of range at least, so that you because you can see my overall position is currently negative, because the actual price for this pair is below my entry price, so I would lose Bitcoin if I would be closing now. But you can see it's currently at 0.49% in the negative, but I'm at already 0.25% arbitrage. So give it a couple more days, and even if it's not rising, if it's still moving within this range, I will have a profit. And you can also always release the profit until a certain threshold, until it's dropped too much, then it's used as leverage. So not leverage, as margin. So I could now withdraw that and do something else with them. You can see now I would be paying the 20% on that, because that's what the moonbots do. And this is basically already it. I keep that running. I plan to keep that running for months probably, and I will be withdrawing the arbitrage every week and probably do a dual investment about it. So speaking of dual investment, why should you do that compared to dual investment? So the sell Bitcoin high, where you also can earn Bitcoin. Well, for starters, in this case, if the bot is not completely dropping, you will keep your Bitcoin no matter what. So this is, I think, the more preferred way if you just want to slowly grow your Bitcoin. The dual investment, when you go sell high, this is more like also arbitrage trading, but you will trade and sell sooner or later probably your Bitcoin holdings to USDT. And I mean, you can buy it back, but you could also miss a pump. Could happen, could not happen. I'm doing both actually. So this is up to you. But for me, both are tools I will be using to try to increase my asset size. One, the dual investment, I probably take a bit of more of aggressive approach to sell and buy with a difference. So let's say I'm selling for 108,000 if I bought before 107,000, and in the meantime from dual investment I just get some rewards. Why not, right? So what do you think about this Ethereum Bitcoin futures moon? Try it out yourself. If you have access to Pionex and access to the non-US, you need to check first if you're in the countries that are allowed. If you want to try it out, you should probably start with a low amount of investment. The problem here is that the minimum required, I think, is already quite high. This one with a 4-hour leverage, it says the minimum is 176,000 satoshi. Give it or take $200. All right, we can say here, $200 more or less. And but it's not gone. If you don't like it, just close the bot again. And the 20% are only paid on the profit you get. So you can see my bot made around 2,573 satoshi so far for running 2 days and 17 hours for an investment of 1 million satoshi. This is probably the worst time I started, because I started on a Friday, and the weekend there's not much going on. So on Friday, or actually I think I started on Thursday evening, but the Friday had a good number of rounds. I think I made Friday alone around 100 arbitrage trades. And on Saturday and Sunday basically nothing happened, because not much movement has happened yet. So we will see how the next week goes. I will keep you updated. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments or pay me a visit at my Discord server that we now have, and we can talk about it there. Also for the other bots, I tried a couple already, but so far this is probably the easiest one, and especially the one I think you can just sit and let go, because no trading fees, no funding rate fees. And the only thing is, if the Bitcoin pumps hard without Ethereum, or Ethereum drops hard without Bitcoin dropping hard, then we can get into trouble. Apart from that, and even if it stays above the liquidation price, so for example this has a liquidation price of 0.015, and I also started another one later on. This has a liquidation price of 0.016, and you can see this is a 5 leverage, this is a 4 leverage. And although this is started later, you see it has less rounds, it almost has the same percentage earned already. This, you see the effect of the leveraging. These bots are not auto-compounding, so you sooner or later need to withdraw your grid profits and do something with them. Otherwise, yeah, it's not compounding itself. So this is the only thing that's a bit bad. It would be great if you could auto-compound them somehow. But yeah, you can reinvest here, so you can add investment. But I think this will be also selling all current positions and reopening them. So also probably not the best idea. Maybe collect enough until you can start a next spot, or do a dual investment, or whatever you want to like.